Welcome to Inside the Invaders, along with head coach Brent Lundgren. I'm Jay Stenman. Coach, it's been a while since we were able to get a chance to sit down and talk about some of these games, so we've got a number of games to talk about, starting with finishing up our road trip, and then our last two games right before our two bye weeks before we wrap up the season. So, backing all the way up, first meeting ever between the Fargo Invaders and the St. Paul Pioneers. We dropped that for our first loss of the season, 47-28. Got down big early, 27-0. Found a way to fight our way back through the end of the second quarter, through the game, into the game, but unfortunately dropped that game. So when you look back at that Pioneers game, what did that game show you about your team, and kind of what happened in the aftermath? I know there were some injuries in that game too.
Well, I think the biggest thing was it showed us where we need to be, and they were much more physical than we were. I'm not sure, again, how many rushing yards they had, but it was a lot more than we wanted to give them, that's for sure. And then offensively, we scored, but not nearly enough as much as we wanted to. I mean, at least we didn't have a shutout, like 40-0. Then you feel like so. And then at one time, we crawled back, and at one point it was 40-28 in the second half, and thinking, if we get lucky and score, and then something good happens, we could be right in the thick of things. But I think we were tight going into the game. I mean, we threw a pick six on the first play, and they scored, so that kind of gave them the emotional edge. And we never really got that back until we went down the first drive of the second half. We drove right down and scored, and it started giving us some life. And then we were playing a little bit more for fun. I think we weren't playing to win; we were playing not to lose.
Right.
And we just didn't play what I would call invader football in the Pioneer game. But it would set the tone for what we need to be, and they were physical, and we just need to be more physical if we're going to compete with the bigger teams.
Absolutely. So we made our trip down to St. Paul. We weren't able to pull that one off, and then, like I said, we've had a number of injuries. We had a couple knee injuries during that Pioneers game. A couple, I think there was either Vinny or Brandon had a hand injury. So we were kind of banged up a little bit. And then we took a big road trip, the longest road trip we've taken this season. Piled everybody on the bus, went all the way down to South Sioux City, Nebraska. Played the Sioux City Stampede, a very good team out of the Midwest Football Alliance. Unfortunately, we had basically half a team due to injuries and other players' commitments. I know we had one wide receiver playing safety all game, so that wasn't really, in my opinion, that wasn't really invader football because we didn't have our full complement of players.
No, we did. And, you said we put everybody in the bus. I don't think we put everybody in the bus. We put some guys in the bus because we went down with a pretty light load. I think we were probably in the 20 range.
Yep.
I know defense was short guys. Defense played 6 guys of our offensive guys on defense, and that's the first time that's ever happened.
Yep.
Because otherwise we're platooning 100% of the time. And we didn't have a lot of guys that drove and showed up. And then plus we'd just come off a loss.
Yes.
And that's the first loss we've had where we got beat 48 to 28 or whatever it was. Was that the final score?
47-28.
47-28. We haven't gotten beat like that ever. That I've been here.
Right.
And so I think a lot of guys were still, wow, we got beat, and we got beat somewhat handily,
right,
especially statistics-wise. So going down to that game, and if I'm a player and I'm going to take a game off, what the heck?
Right.
Sioux City, it's not a non-league game. It really doesn't matter. So if I got to take a weekend off, that'd be the weekend to do it, and we had a lot of guys do that. So we went in there, and they're a good football team.
Yep.
I mean, they rushed for a lot of yards, and they threw for a bunch of yards, and it was hot, and we didn't even have a bench to sit on. We had one little 4-foot bench, and then we had our equipment things to sit on.
Exactly.
So the whole game, I never even got a chance to sit down. So it was, again, another emotional thing where, our guys were kind of drained emotionally from the week before, and then it was, like I said, it was hot and sticky, and then we were playing on a grass field, and it was different.
Yeah.
And they got up early and just kind of controlled and dominated the game.
Right.
But our guys hung in there, they played it through. We scored late. Josh Gatlin got a nice interception late in the game and took it, back to the house, and kind of a little bit of in-your-face stuff. But, I didn't feel bad about the loss because we didn't really quit. We just kept hanging in there. and we were banged up, and we played with what we had.
And we had some turnovers in that game. We had some turnovers on kickoff. So we had the opening kick come to us, and then we had a turnover on that, and they scored right away. But when we got the ball, and at least what little players we had were fresh. We had about 13 or 14 guys on offense. We did take that first drive. We did go down and score to tie it up.
Yep.
And we got the game to, I think, 27-13 or 27-14 at halftime. But then Sioux City came out and got a couple more touchdowns early on, one off a turnover and another one on offense when they got the ball to start the second half. So it was one of those games where if we have a full team and a full complement of players, I think that's a much different game. Even if we're traveling to Sioux City, I think that would be a much more competitive game and a better showing comparing a Northern Elite Football League team versus a Midwest Football Alliance team.
No, absolutely. I agree with you 100% on that.
So that was another chance as we kind of go through some of these games. It gave Trevor Taylor a chance to get some more playing time since we were in a non-league game situation. So we get through that. We had one other kind of injury we thought was going to be worse to left tackle Nathan Ruby. Turns out it was fine. There's some cartilage damage in there, but he's going to be able to play through that. So then we're finally able to return back to Fargo, where we've only played one game all season. And, we've started practicing in January, and we've had one home game the entire season. So now we come to June here, middle of June, we've got two back-to-back home games. So that first home game, we faced the Minnesota Brawlers on kind of a cold and rainy night. It was the second meeting with them this season. We put up a 45-7 win. Defense had 3 touchdowns. That game, I think they were all interception returns for touchdowns. So would you say that game really got kind of, you had more of a full complement of players, still some people out with injuries, but did that really bring kind of the confidence and the home cooking, you might say, of the Fargo Invaders back to the top there?
Right. No, yeah, you're right on that. We didn't start out like real fast and furious, but we were in control. Defense played exceptional. And the defense, the real objective of the defense is just to give us the ball back in good spots. And they gave us, there's 3 spots that we didn't have to have the ball back.
Absolutely.
They just scored.
Yeah.
So anytime you can get 3 scores out of your defense, that just makes it so much easier.
Absolutely.
And then Trevor Taylor played the whole game because he wasn't, Justin was at a wedding or something, but it gave him more experience in realizing. And he had a decent game, not a typical game that he has a talent to play.
Right.
But it gave him experience, and the only way you learn is by doing. And so we played fairly well. We played, like I said, well defensively. And offensively, we did a decent job. It wasn't where we wanted to be, but we're getting back on track to where we had been in the past. And then because the defense played so well,
Absolutely.
I gave our offense a lot of confidence.
Absolutely. And yeah, like you said, they started off somewhat slow in that first half, but in that second half, the offense really started clicking. I believe they had 3 touchdowns. All three of the offensive touchdowns then ended up in that second half when we really kind of started to get the passing game going and get some things going there. So we get back home to Fargo, get our confidence up, have a good win, a good solid team win on both sides of the ball against the Minnesota Brawlers. That led us into last weekend's game where we hosted the Battle Creek Sting, a team that we had slogged through the rain at Soggy Woodbury, Minnesota, on a 29-6 win. So we had a chance this time to play them in some drier conditions, not exactly summertime weather. For some reason, the highs was 58 to 60 degrees, but at least it was dry and kind of a complete reverse of the previous game. The offense came out on fire. They got set up with great field position by the defense. I think their first 2 drives started at the 50 and open up with back-to-back touchdown passes from Trevor Taylor to Jay Greenhill because Trevor got the start once again. And your offense really took control early. In that first quarter, I think there was probably 1 defensive touchdown. So after the first quarter, you guys were already up 28-3. Was there something you saw or something that just kind of clicked that game in that first quarter?
That's a very good question. And if I knew the answer to that, there'd probably be a line outside. I could sell tickets to give them the answer. The game is so much more emotional, I think, than a lot of people give it credit to be. It was just one of those games where it just clicked. And you don't know, what do you say before a game or whatever to make that work? Or what do you say so it doesn't work? We played loose. We played well. They traveled well.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they
Very
came
well.
over with a pretty good group of guys the week before the Warriors. Had we not had a rain delay, I don't know that we would have had a game because they had guys showing up
Absolutely.
after 6 o'clock because we had a rain delay till 6:30. But they still showed up with a decent group of guys. But the Sting traveled well and they showed up with a bunch of guys. But it probably didn't hurt that we found out that earlier that day the Pioneers got beat by the Warriors. And in a close game, but I think now our guys are going, okay, now we got something to play for. Because
Absolutely.
we win the game with the Pioneers up here, we're in first place by ourselves. Now we're actually in first place with a half-game lead, but that's because they played one less game than we have. So, but at least it looks good in the standings.
Absolutely.
So, in essence, we're tied with them, but I think our guys said, hey, we got something to play for. And I just told the team, too, I said, our main objective right now is just keep getting better at what we do, whether it's offense, defense, special teams. Let's just keep getting better so that when we do, play in a few weeks against the Pioneers, that we've done our best job that we can to prepare for that.
So when we look at these last two games, kind of similar team, similar talent level. What I noticed from up in the booth calling the games, it was, like I said, a much more confident offensive team that really got things clicking. And like you said, when things start clicking early, they just seem to kind of snowball at times. But it seemed like overall, there was a much better overall team effort on both sides of the ball, from the Brawlers game to the Sting game. And I think now, having a couple weeks off to prepare for the Pioneers and then followed up by the Warriors game after that, you've got 2 more weeks. We've got a couple guys back. They got some playing time this last weekend. Rajanel John Baptiste was back. Nick Jackson got back and got some playing time. We're getting our guys back and healthy, probably by the Pioneers game. Micah Arnold should be back on the field for us. So now it seems as though we're getting healthy. We've got some time to kind of prepare for this Pioneers game, and the confidence level is now up. And a lot of times, like you said in the past conversations we've had prior to recording, confidence level is so important, because if you're not confident in what you're doing, it's kind of hard to go out there and produce. And now that our confidence level is up, we should be primed to go out and execute on the football field.
Oh, absolutely. If you go into the game thinking we're going to get beat, it's just a matter of how many points. I mean, then, you still play the game because you have the love of the game to play. But if you go in there confident thinking, hey, we can beat these guys, or they can beat us, it's just a matter of who plays better, then at least now it's a fun game.
Absolutely.
And now guys will make plays on both teams, whether it's offense or defense. But that's what we really want to have, is games where guys are making plays. They're not fumbling, they're not dropping passes, they're making the plays they should make. And then usually the team that makes the most good plays wins the football game. And that's what we want to be going into the Pioneer game, is just having more confidence and not being scared and nervous and things of that nature, and just enjoying the game of playing football. I mean, that's why they're all here.
Absolutely.
That's why we're here. That's why everybody's doing this stuff, for the enjoyment of the game. And, whatever your record is, you're out there competing each and every week just to see, hey, how good can we be? And like I've always said, there's no shame in getting beat by a team if they're better than us. There's no shame in that, because you can't beat everybody. Right. I mean, at some point in time, you look at the NFL and how many years it's been around, and only one team wins a Super Bowl. Everybody else is a loser in that regard. Yeah. So, but they're still around, and they still compete every year. And it's that hope, that possibility that maybe we can do this, and maybe we can pull this off. And right now, we're in a pretty good position right at this moment compared to where we were 2 weeks ago.
Absolutely. And I think, too, from that St. Paul Pioneers game, I think that late second quarter into the second half, I think just that section of that game gave this team a lot of confidence that if everything goes the Invaders' way, or not everything, but if they play up to their potential, up to their capabilities, they have a chance to beat this St. Paul Pioneers team.
Well, typically there's 150 plays in a game, so let's just say there's 70 on offense, 70 on defense. I mean, of those 70 plays, a lot of those plays have to be decent plays. I mean, you can't fumble 3 times. Right. You can't throw 5 or 6 interceptions and expect to win the game against a good team. So of the team plays that you have, you got to make sure that you get something positive, hopefully, each and every play, so that then it becomes a game of field position. Right. And it really comes down to, when you play a team like the Pioneers, whoever makes the least mistakes has the better chance to win.
Right.
When we played them down there, we made a mistake on the first play. We threw a pick six. It was not even close to be, should have been that, what the instructions were, but it turned out a pick six for them. Big advantage. Then we fumbled a couple times. They pick it up for a score. I mean, that, when you look at that game, but our guys still felt they could compete with those Pioneers. Now, I was encouraged to hear that. We can play with these guys.
Yeah.
We just need more good things to happen than bad. And then, we'll see what happens here come up July 15th.
Absolutely. All right, well, we will be back probably in a couple weeks after that Pioneers game. So for the head coach, Brent Lundgren, and myself, Jay Stenman, you've been watching Inside the Invaders. Yeah, you betcha? Bye.